You're looking at a political party, one of Africa's largest, that is fundamentally at war with itself. A single decision has just fractured its leadership, turning governor against governor and really setting the stage for a crisis that could reshape the entire country's political landscape. So here's what happened. On Saturday, November 16th, Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, or PDP, expelled one of its most powerful and controversial figures, Nyesom Wike, along with 10 other senior members. The official reason they gave? Anti-party activities.
And almost immediately, right away, two of the party's own sitting governors came out and publicly rejected the move. That sent a clear signal of a deep and very immediate split right at the top of the party. Now, that statement is incredibly powerful because it comes from the very man who chaired the convention where the expulsion happened. That tells you just how deep this crisis goes. Welcome to Africa Watch 360. Calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. We look deeper so you understand better. All right, so let's break this down. We're going to start with just the verified facts of what exactly went down. This is really a story about power, discipline, and defiance inside Nigeria's main opposition. So the main takeaway is this. At its national convention, the PDP made the huge move of kicking out 11 of its members. And we're not talking about minor players here. The list includes heavyweights like Nyesom Wike, who's a former governor and a current government minister, former Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose, and even the party's own national secretary, Samuel Anyanwu. The party leadership says this was just a necessary disciplinary action.
But the reaction was, well, it was fast and it was big. Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of Adamawa State, who, remember, was the chairman of the convention where this all happened, put out a statement saying he completely dissociates himself from the decision. He warned it would just make the party's crisis worse. And at the same time, Governor Mutfwang of Plateau State pointed out that this explosive motion was never even discussed at the PDP Governors Forum or at the National Executive Committee, the NEC. And those are the party's main decision-making bodies, which, well, it suggests the proper channels were completely bypassed.
To really get this conflict, you have to understand the man at the center of it all, Nyesom Wike. His journey with the PDP has become one of the most complicated and talked about stories in Nigerian politics today. So let's just trace the steps that got us here. Wike was a longtime PDP powerhouse, a former governor, but he grew pretty unhappy after he lost the party's 2023 presidential primary. Then he did something that stunned a lot of people. He accepted a cabinet position from the winner of that election, President Bola Tinubu of the rival APC party. So while he was still claiming to be a PDP member, he has since gone on to publicly support President Tinubu's re-election. And that series of moves is what led directly to these accusations of anti-party activities. So you hear this term, anti-party activities, but what does it really mean? Well, it's just the official term for when a member works against their own party's interests. Like, for instance, by openly supporting a competitor. Think of it like a big family business. A very powerful family member gets passed over for the CEO job. So what does he do? He doesn't leave the family, but he takes a top job with the family's biggest rival and even says he'll help that rival win. Now the family has a tough choice, right? Do they discipline him to keep order, or do they try to keep the peace to avoid a messy public fight? That is the exact spot the PDP found itself in. But here's where the story gets more interesting. This isn't just about one man. It's really about the deep cracks he represents and, honestly, the future of the PDP as a strong opposition force. To really grasp what's at stake here, you have to look at the bigger picture. The PDP is Nigeria's main opposition party, sure, but as you can see, it currently only governs 8 out of 36 states. Now, with a foothold that small, internal unity isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely essential for survival and for posing any real challenge to the ruling party. And that's why this internal fight is so incredibly critical. Okay, so let's look at the two competing arguments here. The side that pushed for the expulsion, they believe it was a difficult but necessary decision. From their point of view, you simply cannot have senior members of your party openly working for a rival. They argue this move enforces discipline, it upholds the PDP constitution, and it gets rid of people they see as undermining the party from the inside. But then you have the other side of the coin. The dissenting governors see this as a huge strategic mistake. Their argument is all about reconciliation. They believe this expulsion is going to kick off an unending crisis, it's going to push away Wike's powerful network of supporters, and it's just going to further weaken a party that desperately needs to be united. They also say proper procedure was just thrown out the window, since this was never debated where it should have been. So the political fight is one thing, that's clear. But this decision has also walked the party straight into a legal minefield, and that could end up having even bigger consequences.
And this might be the most critical detail of all. According to reports, the entire National Convention was held in defiance of not one, but two separate orders from the federal high court. The court had apparently told the party not to proceed. What that means is that every single decision made at that convention, including all 11 expulsions, could be thrown out by the courts as legally invalid. Okay, so let's do a quick recap here because a lot has happened. A powerful faction within the PDP has kicked out a key member and his allies, they say for indiscipline. But some very influential governors are publicly fighting the move, saying it was flawed and a terrible idea. And hanging over all of it is the fact that the entire decision might be illegal because it was made in defiance of court orders.
A crisis like this never just stays inside the party. The fallout creates ripples that spread across the entire political system. So the real question becomes, who actually stands to gain from this chaos, and who stands to lose?
Let's break down the potential winners and losers. Well, the most obvious winner, of course, is the ruling APC party. A distracted, divided opposition is a weak opposition. It's as simple as that. Wike's rivals inside the PDP might also see a short-term win here. On the losing side, well, the PDP's national standing is definitely taking a hit. But beyond the party, a weaker opposition can be seen as a loss for the average Nigerian voter because it can reduce political accountability and choice. And ultimately, a stable political opposition, which is really a pillar of a healthy democracy, is also a casualty in this fight.
So what happened last Saturday wasn't really an ending. It was more like the start of a brand new and probably very messy chapter for the PDP. So what can we expect to see happen in the next few weeks and months?
You can pretty much bet on three things happening next. First, expect a flurry of legal challenges. Wike and the others will almost certainly go to court to fight this, using those alleged court orders as their main argument. Second, all eyes are going to be on the other 6 PDP governors. Which side they choose could really tip the balance of power. And third, this is probably going to escalate into an all-out war for control of the party's internal structure, from the very top all the way down to the state level.
Yeah, this is a very fluid, fast-moving situation. The party's really at a crossroads, and whichever path it chooses to take from here is going to have some very long-lasting consequences.
So what's your honest take on this situation? We'll keep following this story. Share your opinion in the comments section, and for more clear, deep analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Watch 360.